Welcome, dungeon hackers. Today we are going to take a look at some lizardfolk in the new Monster Manual. The basic lizardfolk creature has been changed to just a humanoid and can be found in a variety of different stat blocks, and we've talked about that in a previous video. However, there are a few special lizardfolk that we're going to touch upon in this video here. That's right, watch this video and you get not one, but two, count them, two new lizardfolk. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Lizardfolk Geomancer. Both of these lizardfolk are not humanoids any longer, but elemental due to dwelling in a wilderness suffused with primal magic. The general lizardfolk description says that many lizardfolk are humanoids with varied skills. Some forge powerful bonds with the elemental plane of Earth, granting them magical connections to the cycle of growth and rebirth. And the Lizardfolk Geomancer is a CR2 version of a lizardfolk that has bonded with the elemental plane of Earth. It has 13 AC and 33 hit points, a plethora of move speeds, 30 feet of movement with 20 burrow and 30 feet of swim speed. Interestingly, the Lizardfolk Geomancer speaks Draconic and Primordial. Now, speaking Draconic seems kind of fitting since they are lizard folk and dragons are kind of lizardy also. But they've kind of kept those two categories separated in the past, so I find it a little interesting that the lizard folk speak Draconic. However, they do get Primordial Terran, which would be the elemental language of the plane of Earth. He gets a multi-attack. The lizard folk makes 2 Earth Burst attacks, and the Earth Burst attack is either melee or ranged, and it does 9 points of bludgeoning damage. They also have a Hail of Stone, which is rechargeable on a 5 or a 6. It's a Constitution saving throw of just a DC 12. And each creature in a 20-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder, centered on a point the lizardfolk can see within 60 feet, will take 15 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone, or just half as much damage on a success. Now this one's a little bit surprising to me, as a hail of stones sounds more like something falling from the sky, but where did the rocks and pebbles that are part of the damage source in this spell coming from? They're just manifesting in space. I would have expected to see something a little more exploding from the earth. Still an AoE kind of effect, but maybe just a larger version of the earth burst. On top of that, they do have spell casting, and their spell save DC is a 12. At will, they can cast Elementalism. Elementalism is sort of the prestidigitation of sorcerers. It allows you to do different things with different elements like fire and earth and air and water. And then once a day, they can cast Meld into Stone, Speak with Plants, and Spike Growth. Now, I do find these interesting. Spike Growth is a very good spell to use in combat, and Meld into Stone certainly has its uses. And while Speak with Plants thematically kind of fits, it's still a weird one that would be in a stat block because I'm not really sure how a Lizardfolk Geomancer would use that in an adventure. These aren't player characters, so in what situation might a Lizardfolk Geomancer need to use the Speak with Plants in an adventure as an NPC? Let me know in the comments how you would use that either in combat or as a NPC in a social encounter. I'm kind of curious what ideas you guys have. Now, the Lizardfolk Sovereign is a CR4 monster, also a medium elemental. It has a 15 AC and 78 hit points, has the same speeds, including the burrow and the swim, and the same Draconic and Primordial Terran languages. It also has a multi-attack. However, its multi-attack is a Bite and an Earth Maul. Now, the Bite is interesting, only doing 8 piercing damage. But if the target is a creature that isn't a construct or an undead, the lizardfolk gains temporary hit points equal to the damage dealt. So if the entire party isn't focused on the Lizardfolk Sovereign, just one party member attacking him may end up being a wash as he gains back temporary hit points equal to what he may have taken in damage anyway. And he also has an Earthen Maul, which does 10 points of bludgeoning damage, and if the target is medium-sized or smaller, it's knocked prone. So both of these lizardfolk, the Geomancer and the Sovereign, have an ability to knock the opponents prone. Now it is interesting that his multi-attack is 1 Bite and 1 Earthen Maul, Not that it could be 2 bites or 2 earthen mauls. It has to be one of each. I would probably play this a little bit looser and use whichever one seemed to be appropriate at the time. If, for instance, the Sovereign already has temporary hit points, it wouldn't be as beneficial to use that ability as it would to use 2 earthen mauls on the players. On top of that, he also gets a bonus action charge where he can move up to its speed or swim straight towards an enemy that it can see. So it can use either its 30-foot swim or its 30-foot speed to charge towards the players on top of its regular movement. This allows it to close the distance for battle quickly or to escape the party if the encounter is going poorly. So that's the Lizardfolk Geomancer and the Lizardfolk Sovereign. These are 2 new creatures in the 2024 Monster Manual. And while there are no basic Lizardfolk, there are standard humanoid stat blocks that you can use in place of them. So let me know down in the comments what you think about these 2. How would you use them and take advantage of their abilities in combat? Like and subscribe, and come back and watch more videos as we keep on hacking the dungeon.